Hello, I'm Ellen.
And I'm Alex.
And we're
Two girls and some anime.
We're two girls.
Talk about some anime.
Booyah.
Today, we are going to be doing Clamp's Tsubasa.
Tsubasa!
RESERVoir Chronicles.
To be exact.
Being exact.
Tsubasa RESERVoir Chronicles, also abbreviated as TRC.
Yes.
Is a 2006 anime. The manga, I think, started a year before it. The anime
Probably.
came out pretty soon after it started. But Tsubasa is a gem in the sense that if you're a Clamp fan, who are the authors and the mangaka of this particular series, this is just like a gold mine of every single Clamp series you will ever read, see, anything, because the entire premise is about time-space continuum. And so many different characters from all their different series show up throughout this series, and it just makes it 10 times better.
Yes, of course it does. Because, like, all of your favorite characters from all of the previous shows, or not most of them actually were never animated, but previous series are there. They're all there. And they, since I'm not as familiar with all of them, but they kind of have always the feel of, like, their original character.
And so, particularly, the two main characters, Sakura and CHRoN,
are from the cutest magic girl ever.
Oh,
it's actually the only magic girl I've ever seen.
I'm a magical girl, like, fanatic. I love magical girls. But Cardcaptor Sakura was my first magical girl. And it continues to just live on with this pure, unadulterated, like, happiness. Like, it's just the cutest thing ever.
It is
and
the best.
Even though I watched it when I was, like, maybe in 7th grade, like, I would still watch it now and enjoy it. Like, it's just a great series. So you should definitely invest in it. But in this particular series, Sakura is a princess, and CHRoN is an archaeologist.
Which is awesome.
Which actually, if you have watched Cardcaptor Sakura, there's an episode where Sakura's dad comes to school, and Sakura's dad is actually an archaeologist, and he's, you know, one of those parent days where they talk about what they do for a living, and CHRoN decides that he wants to become an archaeologist, and it's this really cute little, like, they actually made him an archaeologist.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a really cute add-on.
It's a very nice, like, kind of shout out kind of a thing, almost.
So, like I said, Sakura's a princess. CHRoN is an archaeologist. Excuse me. And through this strange turn of events, Sakura loses her memory.
Poor Sakura.
When I say strange turn of events, I mean,
she kind of just starts floating up into the sky, flies over to the site that CHRoN is working on. And these weird, creepy guys come out of nowhere.
She grows these magical wings that kind of sprout against the wall.
Yeah.
Either way, which, just so you know, it's called Tsubasa because Tsubasa means wings. So the whole wings and feathers things are a really central part to this. But so at some point, her little fancy wings explode and scatter, and she goes unconscious, and CHRoN, who is so obviously in love with Sakura, and Sakura before the incident, who was so obviously in love with CHRoN.
The last thing she says is, "Oh, that thing I was going to tell you, I'll tell you tomorrow," or, like, later, or something to that effect.
Yeah, and you're just like, this is so frustrating. You were so close to living happily ever after. And so she has forgotten everything that has happened to her up until this point. And so CHRoN, by the magical power of the priestess Yukito, which is fabulous because Yukito is another Cardcaptor Sakura character.
Yes.
But they go to see the time-space witch named Yuko.
From XXXHolic.
Who is, yes, XXXHolic. She is the main character from XXXHolic.
Yes,
and as we learn, Sakura's memories were the feathers.
Yes.
And they have now been scattered across multiple dimensions. And so in order to retrieve and in order to bring Sakura literally like back to the living,
yes,
he has to go and recover her memories. And of course, when they arrive at Yuko's shop, they run into two other people. One is named Phi D. Fluorite.
He's a magician.
He is a magician, first of all. He's, the blonde, perky, totally like
falsely happy one.
Yeah, he
avoids.
That
you always know is not actually as happy as he pretends to be.
The avoid conflict kind of guy, but always poking fun to make conflict kind of guy.
Yeah.
And the other guy is named Kurogane, and Kurogane comes from actually some Nihon, which is Japan. So you have to assume that he comes from like a feudal Japan area.
Yes, he's from a feudal Japan plot. And he has the coolest theme ever.
Yes, he does.
Break the Sword of Justice is the best theme ever. Although I think I'm slightly prejudiced because it's all about the flute, and that is what I play.
And you play the flute.
So I think I'm slightly prejudiced, but I have always enjoyed playing that one, and it's very like awesome. And
Yuki Kajura, though, is one of the best composers ever.
Oh, I really like. You can always tell when it's her. Similar how you can always tell it's John Williams. You can always tell
when it's Yuki Kajura. So either way, you find out that Phi D. Fluorite also wants the power to
never return to where he's from, is what Phi wants.
Yes, so he wants to travel different worlds so that he never has to return to where he came from. On the other hand, Kurogane wants to travel the world so that he can go exactly where he came from. You find out some princess banished him and he's not allowed to go back until he learns to stop killing people, which is actually kind of funny. But emotional at the same time.
His pirate laugh.
We have this inside joke about a pirate laugh that he does in the English version.
Because the Japanese Kurogane is a ninja, and
he is actually a ninja, I think. Okay, the Japanese Kurogane is a ninja. The English version
sounds like a pirate.
He's a pirate, which is totally not true, but that was always what we said.
That's what it sounded like.
Okay, so you have your cast of characters, which is Sakura and Chara, and then Kurogane and Phi.
But of course, they need a way to travel to all these different worlds, so they get Mokuna Modiki.
Oh, Mokuna Modaka, who is literally the most adorable little like blob of light, with these like weird.
Don't they call him a manju-ban?
Yeah, he looks like a bun.
Yeah.
Like, those Japanese buns with the paste in the middle, and they look really yummy, but we've never actually had one.
I have not, no.
I wish I've had one. Red bean paste would be so good. Excuse me. I'm sounding like a man. Anyways, so Mokuna is this little white blob with a gemstone sort of thing on his forehead. And he's got like these really fluffy ears. I wouldn't say they're fluffy. They look like bunny-ish, but they're
kind
not
of are
like
bunny-ish.
Because they don't like stand up straight. They like lie down, but they're really cute. And Mokuna is actually a character from XXXHolic as well.
No, he is in XXXHolic. The black one's in XXXHolic, but Mokuna is originally from Magic Knight Rayearth.
Yes, Mokuna is originally from another magical girl series that they did called Magic Knight Rayearth, which is adorable. A little more dark than Cardcaptor Sakura, but still definitely worth investing in. And so you have these 5, and these 5 then travel the worlds to regain Sakura's memories. And obviously, Phi and Kurogane aren't exactly like there to do exactly that.
Well, Phi, I think, is like, might as well.
Yeah, Phi is just kind of like, well, I'm here. Why not help you?
I'm going to be traveling with you. Why not?
And then Kurogane just kind of gets sucked into it anyways.
Yes.
But this entire show is a masterpiece of, in exciting worlds and great characters that make me want to cry.
And CHRoN's like the perfect guy.
I always had a headcanon in my,
In
Twinny Bopper, like self-insert fanfics that I wrote before I went to bed when I was like 12. That CHRoN was my twin brother.
Everybody's been there. I bet every single one of our listeners are either there or have been. Everybody's been there.
Everybody. I actually still keep the notebook and read it every once in a while because it
laugh.
makes yes. They were mostly like romance stories about me and Fuji from Prince of Tennis. Anyways, CHRoN is my twin brother. I adore him. That was as close as I wanted to get to him because I couldn't dare steal him from Sakura.
Sakura's too perfect.
They have one of the cutest relationships you will ever see, but the most tragic thing about their journey is CHRoN, in order to gain the power to...
Everybody has to pay something to Yuko in order to have the ability to travel. And you have to give up the thing that like is most important to you in this instance. And like to pay for essentially Sakura's portion as well, because like she also needs to travel.
Yeah, she also needs to travel the dimensions.
They end up giving up like she will never remember CHRoN. Like after she gets all of her memories back, she will never be able to remember CHRoN, which is really, really sad.
I mean, it's that whole principle of like all magic comes with a price, and like you kind of have to be prepared to like sacrifice things that you aren't necessarily ready to sacrifice. But that was just something that the fact that he would do that, even though he knew that like the Sakura that would come back would never remember him is one of the most pure forms of showing true love I've ever seen in my entire life. And of course, like the worlds that they go to are all really fun, first of all.
Yes,
and
they are.
They all come with like their different premises, and so it never really gets boring. Because like once you kind of like go through one premise, you get a new one. And at the same time, like you get like characters that never get old, never ever. They're just such a fun cast. And of course, you do have to put up with kind of like this zombie-ish sort of Sakura for the
first couple episodes, probably until about halfway through, really, of the anime at least.
Because while she's still regaining her memories, she's kind of sluggish.
Yeah, she doesn't know who she
doesn't really know who she is.
Yeah.
She doesn't.
She doesn't remember anything.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Oh, and there are just so many heartbreaking scenes.
Oh, I think the worst one is in the second place they go.
The Koryo.
Koryo.
They go to Koryo country.
Which has Hunyan.
Yes.
That's the character from like a different Clamp series.
Yes.
And throughout this world, somehow Sakura has gotten separated from CHRoN and is held up in this bubble up in the sky. And he's like, I'll kill her. The bad guys are like, I'll kill her if you don't do exactly what I say. Mwahahaha. And she's, of course, begging to be saved at this point. But she just calls him CHRoN and not CHRoN-kun. And so since she did not call him, because she was just saying CHRoN and not CHRoN-kun, he knew that this Sakura was not
the real
Sakura, because the real Sakura would never call him just CHRoN. And it's even more heartbreaking because the memory that she gets back in that episode is, in fact, the memory of like her saying that like she doesn't want to call CHRoN-kun. She just wants to call him CHRoN, and he wants her.
She just call her Sakura instead of Sakura Hime, that, or like, all that stuff. But
it's just very, very sad, and I think that's one of the saddest moments of the entire series. Because I think it's very subtle And it's so like it's just a very subtle, sad way that he like, and he's very aware that like she's no longer sees him
the same way. But of course, as the series go on, you have to admit that like the chemistry between them is just there.
It is. And well, because they're destined to be together.
They're destined. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. And so obviously Sakura like eventually starts to have feelings for him again. And what's great is that all of her feelings now are based on new memories.
Yes.
Which I think is almost still really, really cute. Mm-hmm. That the fact that like,
she's still able to fall in love with
him. Still able to fall in love with the same person, even though you can't remember anything that you've done in the past. It's just this, it's just so cute.
It's very
just
cute.
So cute. But obviously, we both watched the anime and we're kind of
horrible.
Yes.
This is, I guess, a spoiler if you have never seen Tsubasa, so here's your warning to not listen further if that is the case.
That is the case. You do not want to listen any further because, or if you plan on not watching it and are just really curious as to what Tsubasa is and why everything in Tsubasa happened the way it happened, then continue to listen. But otherwise,
I would say that this probably from here on there could be potential spoilers on the horizon.
Spoilers.
And definite spoilers. But for the anime, it ends with her like getting this huge like this whole thing of all of her memories have kind of gotten collected and have formed like this new person to take place of where Charon was and all of her memories. But like I just did not like the ending because all of a sudden she got all of her memories back out of nowhere.
It was so frustrating.
It was so frustrating. Like, everything else was so developed and like, it was very rushed, and like that's not the way that the manga ends at all. So it's just very frustrating that they did not complete the series. Because about where they left off is where the plot really starts revving up to go.
And I admit, they did make 2 separate OVAs.
They did.
They made a Tokyo Revelations was one of them.
Yes, and that's
which
the one where
literally like this is where you learn why it's called Tsubasa. RESERVoir Chronicles.
Yes,
because it's all about how this one place they only have acid rain anymore, and you kind of have to assume that this is actually Japan, just like in the far future.
It is Japan. That part of the story takes place in Japan. Like the characters that it's based off of are based off of Japan because they're in Tokyo Tower.
Oh, okay, yeah, they are in Tokyo Tower. Yeah. So you have to assume that this is some like apocalyptic future that happens, and
it's actually really weird.
Yeah, it's a really cool premise.
It is, because then like where Sakura's actually from is technically the same place.
Yes.
And the feathers are what's left of Tokyo Tower.
It's just so so many like
Yep. Oh yeah, it's actually very complicated. It's
very well planned out.
And very well planned out. There's a whole there's multiple clones, multiple originals, weird paradoxical stuff going on. It's intense.
Anyways, so at this part in the series, we find out that Charon is a clone. Like the Charon that we've been with the entire series is a clone.
And Bubble Charon, who was like in the bubble thing.
Yeah, like the entire series, there was like this eluded like
Bubble Chow.
We call him Bubble Charon because he was in this like test tube thing for the entire series, and no one really knew like who he was or what he was going to do.
But he was just kind of there.
He was just there. And eventually you find out that the bad guy, whose name is Fei Wong, first of all.
Yes.
Has literally cloned Charon. And he sent clone Charon out like way long time ago.
But it's very complicated.
It is very complicated. But so at this point we realize that Charon is a clone, and his real like person comes, and
who's technically okay, never mind. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm sorry.
Clone Charon eventually betrays the main group, not necessarily by his own will, more like something like awakens in him.
Yes,
and he realizes that like
Phi's eye.
Yeah.
Because Clamp has the, eye stuff. Like,
thing.
if you've ever seen anything with Clamp, they're all about the eyes. So everybody loses an eye in something in Clamp.
But Phi, so Phi has magical power in his eyes. Like, that's where all of his, like, magician-y stuff is stored.
Yes.
And so CHRoN, who is now power hungry, is like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. And
nom,
he
nom.
literally gouges his eye out and eats it. Like, that was the most disgusting thing I've ever, like, encountered in my entire life. And you can imagine that through all of this, like, Sakura's like, oh my gosh, what's happening?
And then when real CHRoN ends up traveling with them, go figure, she doesn't trust him.
Oh, yeah, doesn't
she's
trust
distant,
him one bit.
But then you also find out the reason why she's so distant is because that Sakura is
also
a clone Sakura.
Oh my gosh.
It's not the real Sakura. The real Sakura was, like, stuck in a tree in Kuragane's country, because that's where they go next.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, they go there eventually.
Well, they go there eventually.
Oh, it's after the chess thing.
It's after the chess thing, and then she gets split into body and soul.
Oh yeah, and then she meets Watanuki.
Yeah, we don't actually meet we don't meet the real Sakuras until, like,
the end
of the final battle.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm wrong.
Sorry, guys.
I'm wrong. It's been a minute since
okay.
I've seen or read any of Tsubasa.
It's a weird time paradox.
It's very complicated, and, like, there's the real ones, and there's, like, the sort of real ones who are, like, the children of the real ones, but they're their own parents because of the paradox. And
it's
then,
just, like, really confusing.
Watanuki is also a version of CHRoN. And it's really...
it just gets complicated.
It's very complicated, and, like, it is possible to figure out. So if you do read it, which I very much recommend you to do, you kind of just have to sit down and, like,
make a chart.
Write it out. We cut out pictures of all the different ones and, like, kind of did this, like,
shuffle sort of thing to figure it out. And we did. We eventually figured it out.
So you just have to kind of logic your way through it, and then you actually get there. There is a paradox, which you just kind of have to accept, as you do with any kind of paradox.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to accept that's the way it is and move on.
All the while, you have to, like, kind of accept that Phi is now a vampire.
Yeah, he became a
and
vampire.
Can only live on Kuragane's blood.
It gets very dark.
Yeah, like,
it was very
cute little story that you had in the beginning
just
turns into, like, this, eye-eating
vampire,
like, time paradox where your mom is technically you. I don't know.
It does get very strange, but very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the time paradox in general even made it that more...
Mm-hmm.
Like, it made it that more interesting.
It did. It kept you curious.
Yes.
For sure.
So, not gonna lie, there are 3 copies of each. So, there's 3 CHRoNs and 3 Sakuras. The one that we first meet at the beginning is the clone.
They are both clones.
Yes. I guess, yes.
They're both
the Sakura
clones.
and CHRoN we meet at the beginning are both clones. Bubble CHRoN is real CHRoN.
Yes.
Yes. We're just going to say Bubble CHRoN is real CHRoN for now.
And then I don't know where the other Sakura
I don't know
is.
where other Sakura is, but she shows up at some point.
But then there's the other ones that if you've seen the anime at the very beginning, you have the CHRoN and the Sakura, like, in the hourglass. And those are the, like, original, I don't know, the parents, whatever you want to call them. They're, like, the first generation.
They're the first generation Sakura
Ground
and
Zero
CHRoN.
Sakura and CHRoN.
And you learn that Ground Zero Sakura and CHRoN, like, basically went through this whole adventure and found some way to live happily ever after.
Yes.
In a totally different, like, they lived in Japan.
In Japan, the same Japan that Yuko is in.
Yes.
The Dimension Witch.
And you also kind of have to assume that they're in some way related to Cardcaptor Sakura and CHRoN.
You just kind of have to go with it, yeah.
And at some point, when they have a child, they realize that their child is CHRoN. And they're like, hold up, you're me.
Yeah.
And this whole thing starts.
And he gets sent to Cloud Country, which is where Sakura is originally from, to meet Sakura.
And so the parents know exactly what's going on because they've already been through this.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of have to assume that this actually could have been happening multiple times over and over.
But I think it starts with the kid. Like, I think that they actually went through it all, found a way to be happy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then when CHRoN gets sent to Cloud, like the kid, you know, the middle one, I don't know. What are we calling him? Real?
He's real.
Okay. So real CHRoN, when he's a kid, goes to Cloud, but then he, like, through some twist of events, he saves Sakura from something that was happening, creating the paradox. That's where the paradox happens, I think. I think that's where it occurs, is when he saves Sakura.
I know.
From getting sucked into the reservoir.
Yeah. Basically, Sakura is a young child, and when CHRoN shows up, she's going through this purification process for her 7th birthday. Because, you know, she's royalty and magic, and she goes through purification processes.
Yes.
And so she spends a lot of time in this, like, temple-y, watery, quote-unquote, reservoir.
Yes.
Which is not actually a reservoir, but, you know. And so CHRoN meets her there, like, all the time, and they talk, and eventually CHRoN and Sakura's family find out that she's basically stamped for death.
Mm-hmm.
And CHRoN, who's already in love with her, you know, at like age 7,
decides that that's not going to happen.
Refuses to believe that she is going to die. And so he basically finds a way through Yuko to, you know, go back in time and try and save her.
And that's how everything starts.
And that's how everything gets crazy. Because eventually, you know, all these times she's being taken away by Fei Wong. And Fei Wong just wants her for her magical power because he thinks that he could use it to resurrect Yuko. Because Yuko is technically dead.
She's technically dead.
She's...
it's very sad.
And in this space-time continuum,
she's
not
already
yet
dead, but, like, she's been brought back to life, but she can't really exist outside of the shop. She can go outside of it, but she's not really real. It's very... You just kind of have to...
It's a confusing...
I don't know how else to explain it. Then you kind of just have to read it.
Yeah, as much as I can remember is that she's stamped for death. CHRoN doesn't accept it, and at some point,
being Sakura.
CHRoN eventually finds a way to, you know, save her, and that's how he gets himself cloned because he gets kidnapped instead.
Yes.
Either that or they both get kidnapped, and that's how they both get cloned.
I'm fuzzy on the details there. Sorry.
I don't know.
Do not take what we're saying verbatim.
Because it's been a few years.
It's very possible that we are very wrong.
But definitely this series in general
is excellent.
Excelente.
I think it definitely also deserves a 10 out of 10.
Maybe
a 9.
Maybe the anime I would give
the
like
anime
a 6
much
out of
lower.
10.
Yes, I agree 6. Because of that ending. If it didn't end that way, I think I could have gone with it.
Yeah.
But the ending was so terrible. It definitely brings it down. I agree. I was thinking of the manga.
And I think like artistry wise, it wasn't the most well animated.
It wasn't the most well animated. Cover photos are always like very beautiful though.
Yes. Which is sad because Clamp is literally, like, they're some of the greatest artists I've ever seen, and they make beautiful artwork.
Oh, their cover art is always so awesome.
It's beautiful. And so, anime, we're given a 6.
I would say a 6 is fair. Slightly above average.
Manga, I definitely, like, I have a lot of nostalgia attached to it. I'm gonna go with, like, an 8.
An 8?
Because the beginning is definitely like 10 out of 10. But once it starts to get confusing, like, there's not as much... I shouldn't say there's not as much character development because it's all character development. But like you lose a lot of the fun.
It does not maintain a lot of the fun. I agree with that. I think usually what keeps them being good is like, even if they're lighthearted, keeping a sense of like the lightheartedness and the joking throughout it, I think definitely makes it a better series. Or if it's serious the entire time through. I don't have a problem with it being serious. For me, it's the complete 180 switch, because previously, yes, there's sad moments and there are serious moments, but it's, for the main part, very lighthearted. But then after they go to
Tokyo, it's like
it gets so dark, and I don't have a problem with it being dark. It's just it does not feel like the same show anymore, or the same series, I guess, because we're talking about the manga when they go that far, because it does happen in the OVAs, but
oh, so tragic.
Yeah, and so I do agree. I think that does bring it down. My gut reaction, since we've been talking about it, makes me remember how good it was, and I think that swayed me a little bit to saying the high number. But I'd say an 8 or 9 is fair.
It's fair.
It's fair. No, it's a fair.
It's
estimate.
a fair number.
It's a fair number. Yes.
And I promise you, like, we do watch things that I would give like a 1.
Oh, for sure.
Like, so we're not just saying this is an 8 because of nostalgia. Like, we're saying this because it has a fabulous cast of characters that work well together. Exciting worlds and premises that changes all the time, so you're never really bored. As well as, great art and, lots of great crossovers. And in general, like, just a fun atmosphere. And then, of course, if you like, eye gouging vampire sort of stuff, then yeah, this may be a 10 for you.
I do actually really enjoy it once it gets dark. It just, to me, it does not feel like the same series that it was before. Like, kind of the vibe you get from it is very different after that point, I'd say. It's still, I think it's equally as good in its own ways. I just almost feel like they should be like Tsubasa Part 1 and Tsubasa Part 2, like not like the same.
Not the same.
I don't know. It just feels very like, okay, well, we're done with the happy. Now it's serious. But Clamp is notorious for that,
For doing that sort of stuff.
It's like all fun and games until like the plot happens.
Until all death breaks loose.
Yes.
Literally. But in general, like, I would say I'm a Clamp fan.
I would too.
Like, normally when I see something that has Clamp's name on it, I make an effort to read it just because I know that...
I agree.
Like, it's them and it'll be good.
Yes.
And so the fact that this, like, literally combines, aspects from almost everything that they've ever written, specifically Cardcaptor Sakura and XXXHolic.
Yes, well, XXXHolic is parallel to it. So, like, it was actually being written at the same time. Which I think is really, really cool. Like, the fact that they would even think about doing something like that is very cool, because things that, like, they do in XXXHolic, like, the gifts they receive from Yuko and such are all, like, you see how they get, like, the whatever they send. It's very cool because of that.
It's really cool. So just simply for the fact that it's ingenious in its own way, like,
you should definitely read it or watch it. Definitely check it out.
Yes. With great music. We love the opening.
Oh, Blaze is awesome. The very first one.
It's just, it's great. I say just a lot.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Ellen. And we're Two Girls and Some Anime. If you could see the blaring smile on my face.